Number 7. The arrogant. Another toxic personality type Stoicism cautions against is arrogance. The arrogant possess an inflated sense of self-importance and superiority over others. Their excessive pride blinds them to their flaws and actual standing. The arrogant person presumes they are always right, the best at what they do, and deserving of special treatment. They are convinced of their superior talents, intelligence, status, and entitlements. This leads them to talk down to others and view advice or criticism as beneath them. An arrogant attitude breeds intolerance, disrespect, and hostility towards those deemed lower. The arrogant individual is unable to recognize their mistakes or limitations because that would shatter their grandiose self-image. Their pride leaves no room for humility or self-reflection. This makes the arrogant unteachable. They reject useful feedback that would help them improve or show consideration. They also have trouble forming genuine connections, since relating as an equal does not satisfy their need for dominance and recognition. The Stoics warn against the folly of arrogance. They advise cultivating humility and recognizing our human fallibility. Pride should come from living virtuously, not inflating our own importance. As Marcus Aurelius stated, "You have no right to pass judgment on others at all. Their natures are the ones responsible. Their dispositions have become as they are under compulsion of character and necessity." Number 8. The selfish. Another problematic personality type discussed in Stoic teachings is the selfish individual. These people prioritize their own interests above all else and lack consideration for how their actions impact others. The selfish person tends to view everything in terms of, "What's in it for me?" Their main decision-making calculus is how they can personally benefit. They pursue their own agenda without weighing collateral effects on others. This leads the selfish person to take advantage of people, ignore others' needs, break promises, and shirk duties that do not immediately serve them. They see no issue with benefiting at others' expense. Their excessive self-interest blinds them to their social obligations. This creates a reputation for untrustworthiness and disloyalty. The selfish individual may achieve short-term gains but loses relationships and respect over the long run. Their cynicism and exploitation breed conflict and isolation. They fail to experience the fulfillment of mutual care and support. The Stoics caution that selfishness is ultimately a hollow path. We are social creatures meant to live in harmony, not conflict. Seeking to elevate others brings more meaning than elevating only oneself. As Marcus Aurelius stated, "What brings a person tranquility is to do what's right and to be focused on the well-being of his fellow man." Number 9. The stubborn. Another problematic personality type discussed in Stoic philosophy is the stubborn individual. These people adhere rigidly to their opinions and refuse to listen to reason or compromise. Their inflexibility makes them difficult to deal with. The stubborn person insists on having things their way, no matter what. They are unable or unwilling to consider alternative perspectives, advice, or possibilities. Even clear evidence contradicting them will not sway their entrenched position. This breeds resistance to change and growth. The stubborn individual would rather persist in full lie than adjust course and admit being mistaken. Adopting a more thoughtful approach would require opening their mind instead of clinging stubbornly to assumptions. Their rigid fixity also keeps the stubborn person from accommodating others' needs in relationships and collaborations. Everything becomes a power struggle rather than a mutual exchange. Their way or the highway. This tends to alienate people. Stoicism teaches the folly of stubborn rigidity. While principles are important, the wise retain flexibility in applying them with reason and care. We harm ourselves when we refuse to adapt to changing circumstances or listen to wisdom from others. Our goals should be truth and improvement, not clinging obstinately to fragile ego. Number 10. The insensitive. These people lack empathy and care little about how their words and actions impact others. The insensitive person does not pick up on social cues or understand others' perspectives. They are tone deaf to what might hurt, offend, or upset someone. They plow recklessly ahead with their agenda without regard for the effects. This insensitivity breeds hurt and resentment. The insensitive person leaves a wake of bruised feelings, anger, and people who feel devalued. Yet the insensitive remain oblivious or indifferent to the harm caused. They do not reflect on how to conduct themselves with greater tact and care. Their harshness and lack of empathy tend to alienate people. Mean-spirited humor, blunt criticism, and callous Disregard erode goodwill and trust. The insensitive person's relationships stay shallow because no one feels safe being vulnerable around them. Stoicism advocates developing greater empathy, compassion, and care in our conduct. While we cannot control how others receive us, we should aim to interact with kindness and consideration. Thoughtlessness yields discord and isolation. Thoughtfulness yields understanding and community. As Marcus Aurelius stated, a wrongdoer is often unaware that he is doing wrong. Number 11. The cynical. Another toxic personality type discussed in Stoic philosophy is the cynic. Cynical people dismiss sincerity, idealism, and goodness as gullible or foolish. Their reflexive skepticism poisons hope and erodes community. The cynic assumes the worst of people's motives in anything positive. They are scornful of virtues like honesty, compassion, and altruism, believing no one genuinely upholds such principles. The cynic's default is derision and distrust. This cynical posture stems from disappointment and protects their ego. If they reject virtue as real, the cynic avoids feeling naive for believing in goodness or let down when it fails. Yet their skepticism becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, pushing people away and degrading what they doubt. The cynic's caustic remarks and hair-trigger doubt tend to alienate others. Their derisive humor and refusal to believe the best corrode human connections. Beneath their protective scorn lies sadness about the good they feel cheated of. Stoicism teaches that while evil exists, we must retain faith in our collective potential for virtue and goodness. Cynicism is corrosive. It saps our power to improve society. Though disappointed, we must remain open to sincerity and work together to increase justice and compassion in the world. As Marcus Aurelius stated, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Number 12. The manipulative. Another toxic personality type discussed in Stoic teachings is the manipulator. Manipulators exploit and deceive others for personal gain. Their duplicity makes them untrustworthy. The manipulative person treats interactions like chess games to strategize advantage for themselves. They plot how to play people against each other, twist situations to their benefit, gain influence through false alliances, and coerce outcomes in their favor. This ruthless calculus makes the manipulator cunning but untrustworthy. They cultivate a facade of goodwill and sincerity, but it masks their self-serving agenda. The manipulator forms bonds superficially, dropping people once they lose usefulness. Their motives always override connection. This exploitative approach to relationships inevitably backfires. The manipulator may achieve some short-term victories through cunning schemes, but their deceitfulness and betrayal of confidences catch up with them. People come to see through the manipulator's two-faced charade and refuse to be used any longer. The Stoics recognize that deceit and exploitation ultimately fail and isolate the perpetrator. Treating others with sincerity and respect, seeing them as fellow humans deserving of dignity, not pawns, is the only ethical and prudent way. Manipulation can never breed true cooperation. Number 13. The reckless. Another problematic personality type discussed in Stoic teachings is the reckless individual. Reckless people take unnecessary risks and fail to consider the consequences of their actions. Their carelessness endangers themselves and others. The reckless person loves courting danger and pushing limits with little forethought. They get a thrill from taking foolish gambles, ignoring warning signs, and engaging in hazardous behavior without precautions. They seem to believe the rules don't fully apply to them. This recklessness breeds disaster down the line. The reckless person leaves a wake of crises that could have easily been avoided with prudence and self-control. Their lack of discipline impacts not just themselves but all those affected by their poor choices. Yet even when their recklessness causes harm, the reckless individual fails to learn. They rationalize away mistakes, avoid accountability, and continue blindly indulging their whims. They fail to cultivate wisdom by reflecting on their errors. Stoicism stresses living rational why, not recklessly. While courage has its place, true bravery tempers boldness with reason to produce virtue, not hazard. Recklessness benefits no one in the end. We have duties to ourselves and others to show disciplined self-control, face consequences, and learn from mistakes. As Seneca stated, nothing is more dishonorable than rashness. Number 14. The unprincipled. Another problematic personality type discussed in Stoic philosophy is the unprincipled individual. These people lack integrity and moral standards. They will go to unethical lengths to get what they want. The unprincipled person does not feel bound by concepts of right and wrong. They are willing to lie, cheat, steal, betray, break promises, and harm others in pursuit of their ambitions. The end always justifies the means in their calculus. This creates an anything-goes mentality. The unprincipled person follows no inner sense of ethics or conscience. They have no trouble deceiving those who trust them or exploiting people's weaknesses for gain. Other people are just obstacles or tools. This unscrupulous approach inevitably backfires. The unprincipled person becomes untrustworthy and despised once their duplicity emerges. They leave a trail of disillusionment and lives damaged by their unethical actions. Any achievements they gain prove hollow. Stoicism stresses that pursuing virtue and noble purposes is the only path to true success. While worldly ambitions come and go, moral integrity endures. We must be willing to lose everything external before sacrificing inner principles. In the end, the unprincipled have nothing of lasting worth. As Marcus Aurelius stated, a branch cut away from the branch beside it is simultaneously cut away from the whole tree. Number 15. The vicious. The final toxic personality type Stoicism warns about is the vicious individual. These malicious people take pleasure in cruelty, domination, and causing harm to others. Their callousness makes them profoundly dangerous. The vicious person sees compassion as weakness and derives satisfaction from inflicting pain. They are bullies who terrorize the vulnerable to assert power, or they subtly torment their targets mentally and emotionally. Their aggression covers deep sadism and insecurity. This active destructiveness poisons the vicious person's relationships and community. Their cruelty and exploitation of the weak breed fear and distrust. They leave trauma and despair in their wake. Their malice is an illness of the soul contagious to all they contact. Stoicism stresses that as social beings, our fates are intertwined. Harming others ultimately harms ourselves. We must vigorously resist the lure of gratuitous cruelty, which destroys human dignity and bonds. True strength comes from uplifting others through empathy and care. The vicious pose a grave threat when in positions of power. Stoicism calls on us to renounce and check those who revel in causing harm. A healthy society allows no room for malice. As Marcus Aurelius stated, to harm others is to harm yourself. The vicious may seem to gain temporarily through evil, but they lose their humanity in the process. If you're listening to this, thank you for staying till the end. If you feel any of these Stoic lessons resonated with you today, feel free to start a Stoic discussion in the comments. I welcome Stoic discussions as they are what the great Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca advised for. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like. And if you want more content like this, subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you for watching, and as always, I hope you find peace and serenity in the Stoic ways.